right. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael. I'm the co-founder of Lalo. I'll let everybody get settled in here. We have a lot of RSVPs today, and I see people are flooding in the room. So we're excited to have everyone here to talk about sleep. While everybody's getting in here, if you can just go to the chat and put in where you're from and the age of your kid or kids or your due date, or when you're expecting your child to arrive. Awesome to always see who's here and where they're from. This is the third of our 4 back to routine webinars. So excited to be here. We have one more to go after this. They've been so amazing, and I know that today's discussion will be just as good.
Oh, wow, they're coming from everywhere, Michael.
Yeah, awesome. Everywhere. So I think we've had, 5 or 6 countries represented over the course of the webinars, and probably all 50 states at this point. Hopefully those out west have survived the hurricanes that you guys aren't used to, and great to see where everybody is calling in from. All right, really everywhere: Texas, New York, Florida, Connecticut, Charleston, Nashville, Rhode Island, Houston, Canada. Seen that Ontario, Canada pop up a few times, maybe the same people. So thank you again if you're joining us again. And if this is your third webinar, we're so glad you're here. It looks like we've got a good group here, so we're gonna really get to it right away. As I mentioned, I'm Michael. I'm the co-founder of Lalo. I'm here to be the host, the moderator for this panel, but I'm joined by 2 amazing experts from 2 great companies, Nanit and Cooper. First is Dr. Natalie Barnett, who's the VP of Clinical Research at Nanit and is a wealth of knowledge. You guys are going to be excited to hear from her. And also Veronica Eyo, who is a Coop leader at Co-op, but also a clinical social worker, and has her doctorate in education as well. So both are going to be a wealth of knowledge on this topic of sleep that I know every parent, including myself, has lost sleep thinking about and wants to make sure they nail right so their little ones can thrive and they can thrive. And live life the way they should. But a few housekeeping items before we jump into the questions. For those of you that have joined us previously, you know a little bit about this, but every week during our webinar series, we do a giveaway on the webinar. So today we will pick a name at the end of the webinar, and we will announce the winner live. So be here at the end if you want a chance to win. And this prize package is amazing with products from Lalo, an amazing package, a bundle of products from Nanit, our friends at Ola with some of their bath time essentials, and then Cooper is providing a 6-month membership to this giveaway. So this is over $1,000 of value in this giveaway that one of you lucky folks will win at the end. And of course, we still have going on our back to routine giveaway, which is $6,500 grand prize. This is essentially cold hard cash that you get to make your life easier as you head back to routine, sponsored by some amazing brands, including Lalo and Nanit and Cooper. So we're really excited about this giveaway. And by being here today, you got an extra entry into that giveaway. So if you signed up already, you got one. And then being here today or any of the weeks, any of the webinars, you're getting an extra one. So that's kind of the housekeeping items. We do hope that you continue to kind of share with friends about these webinars and about the brands participating, because a lot of work and effort goes into putting these on to make sure that everyone is getting the information they need to be confident in their parenting. That's our goal, right? We want everybody to be confident. And so most importantly, we need to get to the topic of sleep, because that's one that every parent wants to nail, like I said before. But let me get to my questions here. And before I get to my questions, we have our Q&A open. If you have a question you want us to get to, we are going to save about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of this to make sure we answer your questions, not just the ones that I have prepared. If you have them, put them in the Q&A. Don't drop them in the chat. Don't raise your hand because we won't see it. It's just going to disappear. But put it in the Q&A and we will make sure we answer as many as possible. Okay, so jumping right in here. Okay, so Natalie and Veronica, thank you again for being here. Obviously, sleep is important for all of us humans to make sure that we can function day in, day out. But why is it extra important for children, or why is it especially important for children? Natalie, if you want to kick us off.
I'm happy to kick us off, Michael. I think my one of my great philosophies is that I want parents to understand that sleep is as important to their children's development as nutrition and exercise. Like, it's these three pillars of health, and I really want us to be putting as much emphasis on sleep as we are on how what food we're giving our babies and what exercise we're giving our babies. It's really, sleep is going to help all of their systems develop, and it's vital for their growth and development. But sleep can be one of these things that can be very elusive for a lot of families and can be very touchy for a lot of families. But I really believe that if we start creating healthy sleep habits really early on, those sleep habits last a lifetime. So, and it doesn't need to be anything hard or long. If we're thinking about routines, I think helping people understand that a very simple bedtime routine from the very early stages can really help set those babies up for a lifetime of good sleep health and sleep habits.
Yeah, Veronica, what would you add to that?
I think I would add, yes, definitely the healthy development and growth. And I think also thinking about like the emotional regulation. Like, when we don't sleep well, just as adults, we're not the best, all right? Like, it's there. And then for babies, for toddlers, for teenagers, all of us, it comes up. And then what happens when we're not regulated emotionally? We're not always at our best. We don't communicate the best. And I know you're thinking, well, my baby doesn't communicate perfectly yet. Yeah, they're not saying words, but they are communicating. And really, when we think of emotional regulation, I think also as a parent, like, sometimes those routines help soothe us too. And yes, it's important for the baby, but I think also just the important regulation for both of us as we're kind of going through this. I think that's what I would add.
Yeah. So I want to focus on the early years of, or like the early days of learning sleep with your little one. For those first time parents in the room, or those that are expecting, sometimes it takes a little bit to understand that your child is just tired. Like, you talk about the emotional regulation. It feels like, oh, they're just crying uncontrollably, or if they're a toddler, maybe they're acting out or whatever it is. What are some of the most common sleep cues or signs to know your child or baby is really just ready for sleep? Like, that's what they need. And Veronica, if you want to.
I'm thinking of, I just recently worked with a parent, and, there's the things that you can see physically, like the redness of the eyes, the rubbing of the eyes that kind of, comes up, as well as sometimes the staring off into space that, we're like, what are they staring at? What's kind of happening there? These body signs that are saying, like, maybe parent, I need to kind of slow down, or I need to kind of, do something different. And sometimes we miss those because we're thinking about the next feeding or the next thing that we need to do, or I need to get to this doctor's appointment and all those stuff. But sometimes those shifts are there. Now, for toddlers, that one, I think, like, it's the big emotions that we might see sometimes that we're like, why are they acting like this? I have been there. I have 3 little ones, y'all. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So I am in the trenches of sleep with y'all. And sometimes I have to even remind myself, like, oh, yes, they're tired. Yes, I forgot, because in the middle of the craziness of everything that you're doing, right? Just those small, subtle signs sometimes come up.
Yeah. Natalie, any cues or signs other than the ones Veronica mentioned that you would look out for?
So I think Veronica touched on a lot of really great points, and I think it's really important for parents in those early days to really to try and understand their babies and try and learn their baby's own cues, because for some babies, to Veronica's point, it could be that it's just a glazed look into space. But for other babies, it could be that they're starting to get agitated. It could be that they're rubbing their eyes, or it could be that they're starting to cry. Usually when they're starting to cry, it's a sign that they're sort of overtired and we've sort of missed those early cues. But I think it's important for parents to sort of understand that it's their job to learn these cues from their babies, and it can take some time. These babies come out, and none of us were trained to be parents. We're all sort of learning on the job. I also have three boys who are now a little bit older than Veronica's now, but I still remember that feeling of, hang on, many people have trained me to do what I do in my day-to-day job, and no one has trained me to do what I'm doing right now, and it can feel incredibly overwhelming. And I want people to not feel overwhelmed. I want people to feel, confident that they know their babies and understand their babies. And I think learning those sleep cues early on can be a really nice way to start to feel confident in your parenting.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the trickiest things with this, like cues and routine and confidence, is that as we've all learned as parents, the only constant is change. Things are constantly changing, right?
Yes.
And there's a phrase that really, it strikes a nerve with me, because being in this space with children, which is sleep regression. And I want to talk about that a little bit and how we change over time, because, I think a framing that I learned, through a lot, being part of this company, having kids, having parents, being a parent, is the idea that maybe it's not a regression, it's just a progression to a different stage. And so, so the idea of regression is actually is almost a falsehood that parents have created to make themselves feel better. And that there's really just like an acceptance that your kid is actually entering a new exciting stage, or something is changing, or something's not right, and then, you need to rethink the routine. So I'd love to talk about the idea of change in sleep and how safe sleep can vary by age, and just the idea of how fast these needs in sleep can change.
And I think,
Veronica, you take that.
Okay. I was gonna say, well, with safe sleep, I think one of the things that we very much value at Cooper is knowing what safe sleep looks like for that age. So if we're talking about a baby, we're thinking there's the crib, flat fitted sheet, there's nothing in the crib, but kind of, those things. Obviously, I love me my swaddle. I miss my swaddle when they would be cuddled up like this, so sweet, kind of in that. And then I think that it was helpful to kind of know that how that changes as they get older, especially after they be, over a year and all those things. And one thing that hit for me really, as you were saying, Michael, about how a regression, is definitely like a progression. I was going to also add that it's just a reminder, we're going to get a little bit of less sleep right now, but it's going to be so much better on the other side. Because sometimes it's hard to imagine that. And I think, also wanting to normalize that us as, I'm just going to say as adults, I will speak for myself as an American who lives in Los Angeles. I try out really hard to keep myself awake. I got multiple cups of coffee as a parent. I'm not listening to my own sleep cues. I've lost connection with that because unfortunately it's not part of being an adult, at least in the stage that I am right now, right? And so why I say that is because sometimes it's a reminder also for yourself that if you're disconnected with that for yourself, sometimes with your kid, it's going to be a little bit of disconnection. It's going to need some prompting with kind of having to do what is safe sleep and kind of moving through the different changes that they're going through. And they're sometimes really subtle, but they can make a difference if you just kind of take some time to kind of slow down and see what is it that they're kind of going through. Yeah.
Natalie, if you want to add something there.
The only thing that I would add is that I think it's really important for families to understand how important safe sleep is, particularly in those in those first couple of years. And we see a lot of products that are out there that are advertised as helping to soothe babies to sleep, or baby to lounge in babies for babies to sleep in. And I just want families to understand how important it is for babies to be in that safe sleeping environment as much as possible. We, as Veronica said, we want to clear sleeping space. We don't want babies sleeping in cribs, in baby lounges. We really want to make sure that they're that they're in that safe sleeping space as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the Back to Routine webinar series. So let's talk a little bit about routines and schedules, which are such a big part of sleep. Can you talk about, Natalie, how important it is to have a routine to get a successful night's sleep? And also, like, what does an ideal routine look like?
Yeah. So, Michael, it's a really two great questions. The first thing I would say is that all of the research shows that babies who have a consistent bedtime routine sleep better and sleep longer than babies who don't have a consistent bedtime routine. So it's something that we always want to be encouraging families to try and implement, is this, consistent bedtime routine that they can, that can be done by different caregivers as well. I don't want it to be that only one caregiver can do the particular nighttime routine. But to answer the second part of your question, an ideal bedtime routine is very, very family specific. To me, the ideal bedtime routine is something that is very simple and very short and can be done fairly quickly. I don't want a bedtime routine to take an hour and a half. Truly, it's just a waste of everybody's time. I want the bedtime routine to be short, sharp, and sort of over and done with pretty quickly, so that everyone can sort of move on with what they need to do, which is, parents enjoying their evenings and babies sleeping. And so I love to think about a bedtime routine as something that, so thinking about having 2 or 3 things that you as a family can consistently do every day. And that if it's mum, dad, grandma, aunts, uncles, whoever, that they can also do that routine. So it could be a bath or a massage or a last feeding or a book, something simple. And look, if a bath is too stressful for your family at 6 o'clock at night, do the bath during in the middle of the day, or do the bath every other day. A bath is not an essential part of the bedtime routine, but if it works for your family, your baby enjoys it, you enjoy it, go for it. Similarly for a massage, if it is something that your baby enjoys and you enjoy, which a lot of families do, go for it. Let's do a sort of fairly, simple, baby massage. But if it's too overwhelming for you as a family to think about, adding that step, don't add it. We want you to be thinking about choosing things that are simple enough for your family to be able to implement easily. And that's the best bedtime routine, is something that you as a family can do, consistently. So, and I want it to be fairly short. I want it to be at around the same time each day, so that it becomes a cue to your baby that it's time to wind down and time to go to sleep. And honestly, for those first sort of 6 or 8 weeks, most babies are really, up, 24/7, consistently, feeding and sleeping around the clock. But after around that 6 to 8 week mark, you can start to implement a bedtime routine.
Yeah.
Your baby may not be, starting to sleep these, super long stretches, or even starting to sleep through the night, but it's a great place to start. And you can just start to implement a bedtime routine at the beginning of the night.
Yeah. I mean, we've been through it all sorts of routines, but we definitely see when we have a routine and we stick to it, it's night and day. And we have 2 kids that had very different sleep patterns and sleep behavior. So, I'm blessed to have my second child who's a great sleeper. Let's just say that. Okay.
Michael, can I add something to that though?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Routine. I think one of the things that comes to me when we think about routines is because honestly, right now, y'all could Google right now, what does a sleep routine look like? And it's like so many different examples of it. And sometimes it can feel very paralyzing to be like, do I have to do this or do not do that? I always encourage parents, even for myself, just try it out. Like try it out and like tweak it as it goes, right? And, I know we Natalie kind of emphasized like wanting to keep it short and sweet. And let me say, I do love when we get to that point. But sometimes, depending on where you're at, if you've been working all day and you want to make it an hour and a half because you want to be there with that baby, then that's cool. I've been there too. I have totally been there, and that can be part of your routine. I do value sleep for everyone. I really, really do. And also, I kind of also acknowledge that sometimes we have needs as parents, like where we've been away from them too long, or um, just the different kids that you have. I told y'all I have 3 kids. I have pretty much done it all. They all sleep well at night. It is amazing, but it has looked totally different, my routine, from, honestly, I will say, like right now we're at daylight savings. Whenever daylight savings happens and when it's off, is kind of the shift and stuff too, because the sun's out and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of normalizing the change. So I just really wanted to emphasize, like, if you feel paralyzed, to be like, what, how do I even start? Even if you didn't start it when they were very young, just try it out, and then work from it from there. And then I think the second thing that I would add is, as parents, sometimes we do feel checked out at the end of the day. And sometimes it's nice not to think about what we're going to do next. You already know, like, I'm going to do the bath. They already know we're going to do this book, the same books. There's some books that are memorized in my head because we read them every single day. But honestly, like, taking away the decision fatigue about, like, what is it do I need to do, or how do I get them to rest, can honestly be so much helpful for you and your mental health as a parent. So that's one thing I would add. Sorry to interrupt you, Michael.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the looking out for us. I want to talk maybe a little bit more scientifically about the kind of the DNA of getting a child to sleep well, and the importance of wake windows, and how do you think about wake windows in understanding how much daytime sleep, how much nighttime sleep, how do we get our child to be a good sleeper, but also how do we use the cues and what our own child is capable of, because different kids have different needs and have just different ways of being in the world. But there is some we can generalize to a degree. So how do we think about wake windows when we're thinking about building like the perfect routine throughout the day to promote sleep between naps and nighttime sleep?
That's a great question, Michael. And I think and to Veronica's point, all of this stuff can be just so paralyzing to parents. And I think it comes back to, a little bit thinking about really understanding your baby and really sort of starting to learn those cues. On our Nanit website, we actually have a sleep schedule generator. So if you just Google Nanit sleep schedule generator, we have sort of built in there our sort of sleep schedules for babies 4 to 24 months, which are a really nice guide for parents, because to your point, I think it's really important to really understand what those wake windows look like for your baby and at different ages, as your baby gets. So for those babies who are, 4 to 5 months, most babies around that age are on a 3 nap schedule during the day. And so typically they're awake for about an hour and a half to 2 hours in between naps, which can be really short. This last wake window of the day is typically going to be the longest, which can throw parents a little bit, in that the last wake window of the day is usually, can be an hour or 45 minutes longer than the earlier wake windows. So it's important to recognize that. B, as they transition from 3 naps down to 2, which usually happens somewhere between 6 and 8 months. Again, you're gonna start to look at those sleep cues, and you're going to see that, oh, actually, my baby's not really ready to go down for a nap at 12, or they're taking 30 minutes to fall asleep at 12. Maybe I need to push that nap out a little bit later. So it's going to be a matter of experimenting with these with wake windows, but our sleep schedule generator will give you a really nice guide for about your baby's age. Then they're going to transition from 2 naps down to 1. Some babies do it as early as 10 months. Other babies do it as late as 18 months. So there's a lot of variation in what is kind of quote unquote normal for when a baby would transition from 2 naps down to 1. And then again, when babies transition from, 1 nap to dropping the nap, there's a huge, huge range of normal there as well, and so there will be babies who drop their nap at age 2. There will be babies who don't drop their nap until age, 5. And both of those are, completely normal. And it's really hard to be next to someone whose baby is still taking a 2-hour nap at age 3, and your baby at has already dropped their nap. And I just think it's important to normalize the variation in sleep and what is really normal for for different babies, and really helping parents to not be so anxious about their baby's sleep during the day.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, we have two very different children. My daughter was never a good napper, good night sleeper. And then when we transitioned her to bed, it was a nightmare. I've gone through it all. We've done extinction methods to break it. And we're like, we got it under control now, thank God. But
don't say that out loud now, Michael. You're going to jinx it.
No, yeah, that's true. I just jinxed it. I'm going to leave now. But anyway, Veronica, I want to actually jump to Q&A and have a great question. I think that you'll have a great perspective on for the group to just keep us moving along here. But this question's from Vivi, and the question, I'll sum it up because it's kind of long, is really, is it okay, or how would you navigate a child that needs a parent or is seemingly needing a parent to be there as they fall asleep? Is that okay? How would you navigate that? Do you need to break that, etc.?
The easy answer is, if that's okay for you right now, then yes. Like, that's what you need to do for you and for your family. Also, we'll say I've been there with the second child that I had in terms of that. But then there came a point where for me, it was too much. Really what happened is that I was pregnant with a third and I really couldn't be there no more. I just was touched out. That's really what happened. But what just normalizing, right? Like, and things needed to shift and change. And I think one of the things that I love about workshops such as these or webinars such as these, or the information, is like, you can just gather the information of how people have, especially if you're like in the room with them and you're like, I want to get out, what can I do? Gather that information and see if that works for you or if it doesn't. We definitely, at Cooper, we work with different families who do different methods of if they do get tired of doing that, they know how to kind of like step out to do that. So for Viv, I just want to kind of say, like, if that works for you right now, then that is then yes, it's normal. But if you decide to get to a point where you're like, you know what, this is too much, also normal. The information is definitely out there to help transition out. Nothing is permanent in parenthood. It's like, that's the only thing that we get, quoting Michael, is like the only constant thing is change. And if we can kind of, be okay with that as we navigate the sleep struggles, it can really just make a difference. So good luck, Viv. Been there.
And just to can I just jump onto that, Michael?
Yeah. Go for it.
I love what Veronica said. And I think it's really important to highlight the fact that there's no perfect way to do anything, or no right way to do anything. If this is working for your family, it's the right way to do it, but there may come a point where it's not working for your family. And if it's not working for your family, there's lots of resources out there for you to help you navigate that change and help think about how you would have your child sleep differently. But I don't want families to feel guilty if it completely works for their family, the whole family is happy, if they're lying down next to their child as they're falling asleep, and it's delightful for everyone and it doesn't impact their child's night, then go for it. But if it then becomes that you're lying there falling asleep and you fall asleep for 2 hours and you don't get any time with your partner in the evening, and then your child is waking up 5 times during the night and needing you to come back to lie down with them, and that becomes an issue for your family, very different story. But if it's not a problem for your family, there's no sort of right or wrong way to do any of these things. So I just want families to sort of feel good about the choices that they make if it feels like it's not working for your family.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So we got this question, I think, from a few different people, but Natalie is one that put it in. And the question is about routines and the difference between a nighttime routine and a nap time or daytime sleep routine. Like, should those be the same, different? Like, how do those differ?
Oh, it's a great question. So I really like to think of having a sort of a modified routine for the nap routine. So I want it to be, I don't want the nap routine to be as long as the bedtime routine, but you may want to do some sort of modified mini version to indicate to your baby that it's time to go to sleep. Some babies don't need anything. Literally, you just put them in, you turn off the light, and they fall asleep for naps. But some babies do need sort of a modified routine. I do not want a family to have to spend an hour to get the baby to nap for 45 minutes. But if you need to do a mini routine, we at Nanit have a beautiful new nightlight and sound machine, which we really love. And it has an inbuilt routine feature, so you can design your own sort of night and light and sound routine. So we like to think about having perhaps like a wind down routine where you would read a short book and then put the baby into bed, as opposed to for a nap, as opposed to a longer routine for nighttime.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think the one thing that I would add to it, as you were kind of talking, Natalie, that made me think of, there are definitely different routines, definitely faster routines, the nap one compared to the nighttime one, because you do want to slow down at night. We all should slow down at night. But I think that's especially important if you're out and about. I think sometimes when we have our first baby, we're like, I need to have the nap at home, and then I need to like do whatever I need to do during the wake window and like come back. Been there, totally normal, kind of happens. But let's say you get to a point where you're like, all right, like that middle of the afternoon nap, and I don't want to be at home. Like I want to do this kind of different. And so that outside nap, I think kind of sometimes can be helpful to think of with your nap routine, something that you can do outside. So it's very common for us to have like, and I did this myself, I would have a song that I would sing during nap time. So that even if we were out and about, mind you, I didn't care about my awful singing voice out in public, but I would sing the song to my baby, and that would cue kind of nap time out and about. So I think sometimes the only thing that I would add was like for the nap, that if you're going to, and I hope that you do naps outside sometimes because you're out there living life, enjoying all that stuff. Try to think of what your routine could be. That's something that you can do outside of the house too, because you don't need to be at home always for the sleep to happen. Okay. So, yeah.
I love that, Veronica. Can I just jump onto that for a second, Michael?
Yeah.
I really love that point, Veronica. And I think it's really easy for us to be focused on, talking about having the naps at home. I really love to recommend having that last cat nap of the day that a lot of the, sort of 2 to 6 month olds have that last cat nap of the day out and about. And I think that having that last cat nap out and about is great for lots of reasons. One, it's literally just a cat nap to get them through until 7 or 7:30. So if it's 15 minutes in the car or 15 minutes in the stroller, it's a great, a great way just to get this short nap out and about. B, it means that you can get outside and get some, fresh air in the afternoon. Like everything is better when you're, out and about. And C, a lot of families have, 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and juggling everyone's schedules and thinking about trying to make sure that this baby has, naps at home can really be very hard to navigate. So I always love to think about, if you can, having the earlier nap at home and the later nap, or later, earlier naps at home and the later nap out and about, if you can, if that works for you.
Yeah. Okay. I hate to do this because there are so many great questions. But there's just too many to get to. And I think we focus a lot on kind of early stage sleep stuff, building routines, how to promote safe sleep, so many great topics of conversation. I think we neglected a little bit toddler sleep, and I apologize because that's where I had the most problems when they're in bed transition, stuff like that. But I'm going to launch a poll right now and see if you guys think we should host more sleep webinars, specifically maybe ones that are geared towards certain groups of children, so that we have one just for toddlers and one for more newborn sleep or sleep training, etc. Would love to know if people would love to see that. In the meantime, I do want to encourage everybody that no matter what issue you're having with sleep, or if you need more information, there's so many great resources out there, whether it be all the content that Nanit puts out, or finding a group through Cooper to really connect with other parents and getting so much guidance from great professionals like Dr. Veronica. Like, there's so much out there, and you're not alone. Like, there are other people. Every problem that you've experienced, someone else has experienced it. I've broken every rule. I don't listen to the books. I'm not promoting any of the things that are controversial that I've done, but I've done a lot of them. So we're not going to talk about them, but there's our amazing guest said, there's no right or wrong. If it works for your family, it works. If it doesn't work for your family, find solutions, talk to people, look at your child, understand their needs most importantly. Before we wrap, I want to share the giveaway winner. And I want to give our is there anything, Natalie or Veronica, you guys want to add before we wrap up?
I've got two things that I want to add, Michael. Sorry,
Yeah.
One particularly I want to talk a little bit about toddler sleep. We often see toddler nighttime resistance happening when the nap is either too long or too late. So if you're starting to see that bedtime for your toddler is creeping too late, or they were always going to bed at 7:30 and now they're, still messing around at 8:30, it's likely that the nap is too late or too long. So you may need to either have it earlier or cut it back, or even cut it out altogether, which I know is, a terrible thing to say, but it will mean that you're going to, can deal with that bedtime resistance, because very often they're resisting because they're just not tired enough. So we want to make sure that they have built up enough sleep pressure, that they have a long enough wake window so that they're tired enough and ready to get to sleep at the beginning of the night. The other thing that I just wanted to touch on, you said the most important thing is that we can make our kids happy. I think one of the most important things we can give our kids is happy parents. And happy parents are parents who are spending time together, remembering why they got together in the first place, and having that chance to connect in the evening if they can. And so I want to make sure that parents are remembering to prioritize their partnership if they have one. So that's all I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love that, Natalie. And I think also I was going to add, just remember, as we're going through this toddler thing, as a person who's actively there in there, before you know it, they will be teenagers, and you can walk in while they're sleeping and, be like not settling down. Remember, they'll be teenagers. Payback will come. It may be very, very much in the distance, but it's definitely there. As one thing that I just kind of want to leave off about as we've been talking, this is a topic, sleep is one that you will be talking about for some time. As we're talking about sleep, I think sometimes a misconception about sleep train or getting our kid to sleep is like, once we get them there, they're going to stay there. And that, I hope, was emphasized that is not the case, that this is something that we're going to talk about and shift with. And that as we're kind of going through this, and if you can hold that, like, definitely enjoy the nights when everybody sleeps, but also kind of normalize in some ways and acknowledge that, like, okay, we might have to shift when school starts, when the time changes, when we're potty training, when a new sibling comes, when we get a new job, like we get a dog, like there's so many things that just kind of shift that. And so the biggest thing that I hope that you guys got from this talk was just that it's going to change. And these are definitely topics that we talk about at Cooper. So I hope some of you guys will come and join us to talk a little bit more about sleep and how to get us all to sleep, or not. We got to make it through it. We're in the trenches together, y'all.
All right. So I'm going to announce the winner, and I'm going to share some other quick things, housekeeping, and then we'll wrap before you guys fall asleep on us. But the winner of the giveaway, if you are here, to make sure you can claim it, just click the raise hand button when I say your name. But the winner of today's giveaway, oh, that was tricky, was Beatrice Lopez. Are you here, Beatrice? If you're here, click the raise hand button. There she is. All right. So Ariane from our team will be in touch with you to make sure you can claim your prize from Lalo and all the other sponsors of today's giveaway. And as a final reminder, we have our last Back to Routine giveaway next week, next Tuesday, same time, same place. And it's about promoting clutter-free play. So a little bit of organization, a little bit about play, another great topic. So please join us. It's with our head of play and development, Lizzie Asa, and me. We'll be back here and having a great conversation. We also have so many amazing things coming at Lalo. I recommend that you check out or sign up for our emails and SMS. We have our Starting Solids 101 webinar, which happens quarterly, happening on September 14th. So if you're starting solids or expecting and want to join that conversation, I recommend that. That's with Lalo and Solid Starts. And then we have some amazing products coming out. I can't share yet, but something exciting dropping tomorrow. Make sure you check your email and your text if you want to know about it first. And then over the next few weeks, we have I don't know, something like 5 or 6 new products dropping soon. So make sure you're tuned in to everything new coming from Lalo. And we hope to see you next week for the last webinar, and last opportunity to earn another entry into our Back to Routine giveaway. Thank you all.